And this is the heart of the good girl bargain. It is simply the trade of authenticity for approval. And a lot of these patterns have helped women succeed for decades. Overfunctioning helped get things done, right? People pleasing helped to avoid conflict. Professionalism helped reduce criticism. Maybe achievement created validation. And emotional monitoring helped keep the peace. Welcome to The Change Effect, the podcast that helps you turn life transitions into powerful new beginnings. One story, one shift, one breakthrough at a time. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, leadership coach, and change strategist who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders break through barriers to create success on their own terms. I now work with women to step into change to create a life they love. Whether you're putting yourself at the center of your own story, redefining success, or making a power pivot in your life, career, or business, you're in the right place. Each week, we dive into conversations with trailblazers, changemakers, and everyday women experiencing the ripple effects that come from overcoming the fear and doing it anyway, providing actionable steps, practical strategies, and a whole lot of fun along the way. So if you're ready to step up and become unstoppable, buckle up and let's get started. I want to talk about something I think many women recognize, even if they have never named it. It's called the good girl bargain, the unspoken agreement many women make with themselves to be pleasing, responsible, agreeable, and easy to approve of in exchange for belonging, safety, and success. In today's episode, we'll look at how these patterns often begin as smart, adaptive strategies and why they can become limiting over time, and what it takes to start following your intuition, setting new rules, and choosing inner alignment over approval. Now, the good girl bargain is one of those agreements that is so stealth-like, it is often really difficult to recognize it until we bring it out into the light. The agreement sounds something like this. If I am good, responsible, easy to work with, helpful, capable, agreeable, and impressive enough, then I will be safe. I will be loved, I will belong, I will be rewarded, I will be chosen. And for a while, this bargain can work. That's part of what makes it a bit insidious and far more complicated. Now, let's be honest. It's not that these strategies came from nowhere. Many women learned very early on that being pleasing, responsible, emotionally aware, and high functioning were excellent traits to help them move through the world. They were praised for it. Being the dependable one had its rewards. Handling everything, reading the room, anticipating others' needs is a true skill and can certainly help get us through life. And in professional settings, this gets even more layered because it can become a game of actual compromise. Suddenly we're being asked to be confident, but then not too confident. So it can get very confusing. We're being asked to be direct, but not too direct, ambitious, but not selfish, warm, but still respected, capable, but not threatening, honest, but careful, and soon it becomes a constant calibration. And over time, that calibration can become exhausting because you're not just making choices, you're managing how your choices now are being received. And this is the heart of the good girl bargain. It is simply the trade of authenticity for approval. And a lot of these patterns have helped women succeed for decades. Overfunctioning helped get things done, right? People pleasing helped to avoid conflict. Professionalism helped reduce criticism. Maybe achievement created validation. And emotional monitoring helped keep the peace. Being useful made women feel needed and valued, and these strategies often made sense. So let's pull the covers off a few of these strategies to see what is actually happening underneath. Let's first talk about overfunctioning. Being the one who anticipates, organizes, manages, fixes, and carries. Overfunctioning on the outside can look like capability, but in truth, it's a belief that everything will fall apart unless you hold it all together. And this sense of power is not only false, but it puts you on a fast track to burnout and overwhelm. Now, what about people pleasing? Reading the room, adjusting your tone, prioritizing harmony. People pleasing is often a way of trying to manage your own emotional safety. This is a tricky one because it also creates the illusion of being in control of others as well. And we all know the reality of that one. Or let's look at perfectionism. Oh, I love this one. Trying to make yourself be beyond criticism. Perfectionism creates the illusion that if you do something right, no one will question your worth. This is a trap many of us fall into and find that it's not only BS, but it's just another obstacle holding us back from showing up authentically in our life and work. Now, how about emotional monitoring? Tracking other people's moods, reactions, expectations, and comfort levels. Now, this can create the feeling that you're responsible for the emotional temperature of every room, which we all know is a slippery slope and completely unachievable. Then there's using achievement as proof, using accomplishment to earn belonging, approval, or permission. Now, this is another energy zapper, by the way, with zero return, because when your worth is tied to your output, it inevitably makes rest feel unsafe, and that's just leading you to exhaustion and overwhelm. Now, last but not least, self-abandonment disguised as maturity. Now, I saved this one for last because I think it's the most prevalent among women. Convincing yourself you're being practical, generous, or responsible for others when you're actually overriding your own truth. Oh, the classic, I'm doing them a favor by abandoning my own needs. When we know at the end of the day, it's only putting you on a fast track to resentment. Now, let me say a little something about resentment before I move on, because it can often feel like an emotion we're supposed to rise above, but I actually think resentment has important information to give us. It often points to a place where we have overgiven, overasked, stayed silent, or pretended something was okay when it wasn't. When you start feeling resentment, it's time to take a cold, hard look at where a new boundary may be needed. Now, these strategies are a part of life for a reason. They have undoubtedly helped you survive and succeed for a long time. The problem is that eventually the same strategies that helped you succeed can start to limit the life you're trying to create now. And that is usually when the bargain becomes visible. That's when the signs start to show up. That feeling of resentment we spoke about will show up more frequently. You begin to take notice when you're saying yes too quickly. You may start to feel the fatigue of taking someone's temperature before speaking your truth. And more broadly, you may begin to wonder why the life that looks good on paper doesn't feel as good on the inside. Now, that's often the turning point. It's when your external behavior and internal balance are at odds, and you begin to feel the cost of the rules you've been following. These rules can become so familiar that they actually start to feel like your personality, instead of what they really are, which is protection. And when a woman starts to follow her intuition, she often has to renegotiate those rules. Now, that sounds empowering, and it is, but it can also be very uncomfortable. Why is that? Well, it's because following your intuition may mean disappointing someone. It may mean changing a dynamic that other people benefited from, or saying no without over-explaining, or wanting something that does not fit the role people are used to seeing you in, or letting go of being understood by everyone. This is where the trade-off comes in. At some point, if you're committed to internal growth, you inevitably need to choose honesty over being liked. And that is just not always clean or comfortable. But there is one thing we can all agree on. It's that when we make the decision to be honest, I mean truly honest with ourselves and others, the game changes completely. So, if honesty is our goal, how do we begin to write these new rules? I think we start very simply. We notice the automatic yes, that moment when someone asks something of you and your mouth says yes before your body has had a chance to respond. That's a place to take pause. You can ask yourself, do I actually want to do this? Do I have the capacity? Am I saying yes from desire, guilt, fear, or habit? Another practice is what I call clean disappointment. And this is allowing someone to be disappointed without immediately rushing in to fix it. This is one I've learned later in life, and the lesson is this. You can be kind and still hold your line. You can care about someone and still choose differently. And you can disappoint someone and still be a good person. This is a big one for many women. Once we take this first step, then we're ready to create new rules. Here are a few to chew on. Old rule, I have to be easy to be acceptable. New rule, I can be honest and still be worthy of love. Old rule, if someone is disappointed, I did something wrong. New rule, disappointment is uncomfortable and a part of life. And if you're speaking your truth, it's merely a consequence of someone else's expectation. Old rule, my value comes from being useful. New rule, I matter beyond what I provide. Now, this is how the bargain begins to loosen, through small moments where you stop abandoning yourself to remain acceptable. You say the true thing. You let the pause be there. You ask for what you need. Making a choice based on intuition, not the need for approval, is a shift that will change your life. Because every time you show up for yourself, you're building your internal strength. And that's how you grow. So I think this is where the shift truly happens, by becoming more honest with ourselves first. Honest about what we want and about what we no longer want to carry. Where we can make the healthy distinction between approval and safety and begin to untangle our need to be needed in order to feel valued. So here's a little exercise for this week. Pay closer attention to where the good girl part of you still takes over. Where do you say yes when you don't want to? Where do you soften the truth before you even speak it? Where do you make yourself smaller so someone else can stay comfortable? Remember, this is one of those bargains you have 100% of the power to renegotiate. Because choosing yourself does not mean you stop caring about other people. It means you stop abandoning yourself in order to feel worthy. And that may be where the real freedom begins. Not in becoming someone entirely new, but in finally giving yourself permission to be more fully who you already are. Now, I'm attaching a quick exercise in the show notes called the Good Girl Bargain Inventory for those of you who want to go a little deeper. That's it for now. Until next time. Thank you for listening to The Change Effect. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review if you enjoyed this episode, so more women like you can find us and take their next step toward creating a life they love.